Great. Thank you very much, Paul, and welcome everybody. So the next 45, 50 minutes or so, we'll be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is ITIL, and specifically what's new in ITIL 4. I applaud everybody for joining because it is a very new and very interesting topic. And it's fascinating to see the progression over time. As Paul noted, you can chat your questions. We will either take them during the call if they fit into the flow, or we'll try to address them at the end of the session. There will be time for questions. So today what we're going to walk through together, so we'll talk a bit about our current IT reality and our world today. And then we're going to look at what is ITIL. So some people may be new to ITIL, some may have version 2 or version 3. And then what we'll talk about is what are the details within version 4. Some of the high-level key elements, obviously, given time, a basic introduction there. Also going to talk about the changes from an ITIL education perspective for those of you who are looking at your professional accreditations and how this will work in the new scheme. And time for some questions as we move through. Myself, I've been in IT for many, many years, actually started with ITIL back in version 1. And have seen the progression over time. It's really been beneficial to a great number of organizations. It has gone through questions of relevance, as we've seen in the DevOps world, etc. So we will address those as we move through. And what we're seeing is really with ITIL 4, a new convergence of our popular IT best practices. So we'll talk a bit about that. Where does ITIL fit within DevOps and Agile and Scrum and Lean and other best practices there? And one of the beauties of the best practice of ITIL is that it really is infrastructure or technology independent. And it is also business competency independent. So we've seen activities and adoption of ITIL within IT service provider organizations where the business is IT, telecom, finance, government, private sector, public sector, manufacturing. It really does cross all of the verticals of industry that are out there today. So I look forward to sharing some of the new changes with you and talk a bit about where we are today and how this is moving forward to reflect our current IT reality. So with that, I'm wondering if any of this sounds familiar to people. We have users, so our end users, they're the ones who feel the pain most often of any dysfunction within an IT organization. They complain of slow response times. They have complaints. Why am I calling about the same problem again? I just called you last week. Why isn't this being fixed? We're not being kept up to date on what's going on. We've got other stakeholders like finance who looks at IT oftentimes still as a cost center and not a true strategic partner. They're constantly asking what is the ROI and looking at areas like IT to cut costs and to do more with less. CIOs. There's a whole world of competing IT best practices out there. You hear things like we're agile, so we want less process. We're DevOps, you know, we don't care about process. Well, I will talk a bit about this as we go through, but none of these IT best practices were meant to be mutually exclusive. They were meant to be complementary. And what we're really seeing is we've gone past that tipping point today where we are at a convergence of these best practices. So we'll talk about where ITIL fits in there. But this is a common thing you hear in a lot of IT organizations. You know, we're X, so we don't want to go towards process. And IT is at the end of all this saying, people, they're at the demand of the end user, they're at the demand of the business, they're getting pulled on either end. They have the bring your own device and business units going out and buying all of this software as a service type of packages and saying, let me just run this. Why can't you just run this? So a lot of challenges in our current IT reality. And so when you look at some of these feelings and some of what you're hearing, where is this problem? So let's take a look at it from two perspectives. One is from the IT side. So from the IT perspective, I think what underpins a lot of the messages that you're seeing in these points here is that IT is not at the corporate table. They're not viewed as a strategic enabler from the business perspective a lot of times. It's difficult. We struggle. We have so much information, but pulling it together as knowledge to enable good decision making, not only from an IT perspective, but to enable the business to take good decision, is sometimes challenging as well. The staff in IT, we're constantly working in a reactive mode, and we spent years trying to shift ourselves out of it. Now, there's parts of IT that will always be reactive, and that's where you're responding to when issues do arrive, and things happen. It's how you deal with when things happen that retain your customer and your customer satisfaction. However, there is another concept that IT is struggling with, and this is the concept of technical debt. And it's just like financial debt. So think of it this way. Development and development organizations are under the demand from business to deploy, to develop and deploy, get my new features out, get them out quickly. Now, they are doing that cognizant of it might not be clean applications, it might not be clean software, or there are issues with it running in a specific infrastructure or specific environment. So what happens is that it's released, you're on to the next project, and you're accruing this technical debt, these band-aid solutions, these workarounds, and that continues and that continues and that continues. And where we're getting to in IT organizations because of this is where you're unable to respond effectively anymore to the business demand and need because of the fact that you have built up this technical debt. And this is where DevOps has come into play and having more of an agile mindset and trying to reduce this technical debt. And a lot of IT organizations, they're still caught in the silo culture. So that could be culture itself that is siloed. That could be your functional organizational structure that's siloed. You could have silos around technology. You can have silos around process even. And what I've observed is even silos around best practice, right? This is our DevOps area, right? We don't do anything else. That's DevOps. So that from an IT perspective, that's a lot of the challenge to date. Now from the business perspective, there still is that perspective of IT as an expense, as a cost center, and where the business is not considering IT as that critical strategic partner. Improvement decisions can sometimes be made independent of business strategy and requirements. Oftentimes it's done on technology. And so that pairing and that partnership that's required is not in place. The business doesn't work with IT on an ongoing basis to achieve its business objectives. They're not inviting and understanding the capabilities really at times for IT to enable their business and to provide that strategic differentiator. And the impact of IT-related change on the business is not understood nor aligned with the business strategy and direction. So as much as on the top 10 what keeps CIOs awake at night lists, business to IT alignment has been there for as long as I've been in business here, and it still is the biggest challenge today. But things are changing. So if this is the problem, what does a mature service organization look like? So it is when IT is accountable to the business and they're able to prioritize their work and investments based on enabling those customer outcomes and delivering value to the customer. They value customer perception and satisfaction, where they're working to achieve those outcomes, and it is a true organizational collaboration. So it is a true partnership there with the business. There is a culture of continual improvement. So always looking for improvement, especially in our IT services realm, because that is our area of accountability, and that we begin to break down those traditional silos, that we're more collaborative, that we truly are embracing an agile mindset. And my personal pet peeve, not just using the word agile to say we're fast and we won't follow any process. Even agile doesn't support that. But really breaking down those silos. So it sounds like kind of a nirvana, but we do have the best practices in place to help us to continually improve and move towards this level of maturity. On the other side, there is accountability from the business. So the business needs to recognize IT as a critical enabler of their business strategy. Sometimes, and we'll see examples of that next, IT is the business strategy. That they're integrating IT into the decision-making process, that we've got good, close relationships, that IT is at the corporate table, involved in strategy, that there is a consideration of IT requirements, and it's a true partnership working with IT service management. And if you drop IT off the front of service management, you have service management, and this is a concept that applies to any service-based delivery organization. And truly having an understanding that any best practice, and definitely what we'll talk about today, ITIL, was created with the business in mind. Its main focus, it's what we saw in version 2, version 3 definitely, and version 4, it continues to focus on value and value delivery and value co-creation with the business. Okay? So very, very important. So let's take a look at IT service management in the modern world. So services truly do make up the majority of the world economy today. This is a statistic from the World Trade Organization. It's very, very rare that you use a service or interact with a service that does not have some essence of IT enablement. Technology at the same time is continuing to advance at a record pace. So we've got AI, we've got cloud computing, blockchain, machine learning, whatever is going to come next, because it will not stop. It is just continuing. And not only is IT an important business driver, but it can actually become the strategy itself. And this is this whole concept of digital transformation, where we see new business models and new delivery models completely based on IT. So you've got Airbnb, you've got Uber, you've got Amazon, especially now we've got the Amazon Prime streaming services, Netflix, Etsy. All different kinds of examples of digitally transformative businesses and business models that are IT enabled. And IT service management is that capability that is strategic to success in this really, truly disruptive environment that we are living in and working in. This is the capabilities within the best practice of ITIL allow you to manage this balancing act. So on one hand, we do need to ensure that these services that enable the businesses are stable and predictable, that we're delivering to agreed service levels. IT and connectivity to the internet it's expected to be there, just like you expect to put in a plug in the wall and you don't get shocked, and it's safe and it's always on. That is the expectation today globally from the end user, from consumers of the services. Yet on the other hand, we've got this demand for being agile and responsive to the business and increased velocity. Now, velocity is just speed with direction, right? Being responsive in these changes. So it really is a very challenging environment that we work in today, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So let's now take a look at ITIL. What is ITIL? So for those of you on the webinar who are brand new to ITIL, ITIL it stands for IT, or Information Technology Infrastructure Library. And it's really just a set of books that collect best practice of what good looks like and how mature IT service management organizations manage and deliver their services to the business. It's effective and efficient ways to adapt and adopt this best practice. And I think what a lot of organizations take away as a huge value statement is that when you leverage any best practice, what you come away with is a common language and a common understanding across all levels of the organization. About how you are running, how you are interacting with people. You may have your own flavor of name for what, let's say, you call an incident. It could be a case, whatever, but you understand, importantly, what that means to your organization. So I can't emphasize that enough, how critical that is to enable change and overall behavior and cultural change in your organizations. Concerned with the holistic integration of all IT practices. So it truly is a holistic approach to managing and delivering services and supporting these services. And it is also focused very much on continual improvement. It becomes a core competency there. As noted before, it's a solution for the whole organization. It has the business in mind. It's independent of any infrastructure architecture and business core competency. And it is recognized as the de facto standard. I'm doing little quotation marks in the air here, but the de facto standard for IT service management globally. It's not a flavor of the day. It has been around, the best practice, since the mid-'80s. So for those of you who might have experience back then, that's when version 1 came out, and there was 10 core books that described the various functions and process-based management. But it was very independent process focused at that time. In 2000, we came to version 2, and that's where we merged those 10 core books into 2 main books, and they were service support and service delivery. And we started to see the interdependency between the processes, but still process-based management. In 2007, version 3 of ITIL, of the best practice guidance, was released, and it had an updated edition. We call it the 2011 edition, and this is what most people have adopted in IT organizations now. And it took the same processes from version 2 and put a wrapper around, which was a lifecycle based approach to managing services. So it consisted of 5 core books: service strategy, service design, transition, service operation, and continual service improvement. It was based on 26 processes and very much service lifecycle focus. So starting from your initial strategy right through to delivery support, even retirement, sunsetting, and then the continual improvement as we work through. Since 2011, because of the rapid change, ITIL had to change. It had to recognize that there are other best practices there and methods that are proven and that are extremely complementary to our service management components and ability to deliver. And that's where you started to see the lean and DevOps and Agile methods now are going to be incorporated into version 4. Instead of the lifecycle approach is still there, and rest assured, everybody who has adopted and invested in version 3, all of version 3 that you know and love is still in version 4. It's just been taken up a level and added to. So the lifecycle based approach is still there. I will talk to that in the concept of a service value chain. However, it's been taken up a level, and what we have now is what's called a service value system. And this is truly leveraging lean. I will talk in a bit more detail as we progress through the deck here, as we progress through. All of the practice or the previous processes are there, the 26, but they have been expanded upon. And not only have they been expanded upon to include other practice areas, but we have changed the wording from processes to practices. And I really applaud that they have moved in this direction, because they're recognizing that processes are just one component of being good in, let's say, change management or capacity management or service level management, that it truly is a practice, like a law firm is a practice, where you've got within your own area of expertise, you've got your own tools and technology and roles and processes and procedures that enable you to deliver from that practice perspective. So that's another change that has been introduced with version 4. The guiding principles have been introduced. We will look at those as well, but what you're going to see right away, especially for those of you who are versed in Agile, that they really do align to that Agile mindset. They actually existed in version 3 at the practitioner level of study. So anybody who has studied practitioner level in version 3, 2011, would be familiar with these guiding principles. But what they've done is they've pulled this into the core basics of foundation of ITIL. And I noted as well the value chain delivery focus, and that is part of our overall service value system. And that's where you see the life cycle based approach from version 3 applied within version 4. So to take away from this particular slide, ITIL has had longevity. It is not dead, as we have heard some people comment on, and even Jean Kim from the DevOps Phoenix Project side of the world has debunked that myth, because in essence, DevOps itself was based on 3 really core principles or best practices. One is Agile, the second is Lean, and the third is ITIL. So a little bit of background there for you. Progressing through, so why ITIL needed to change. I think I talked quite a bit about this, but it was really about improving consistency, so practice what you preach, continual improvement, and really the environment has changed. So ITIL needed to reflect that and to align more truly with the changes such as DevOps and cloud computing and AI and Agile and what we're aware of more with this cultural change. And really what's underpinning the cultural change is collaboration and the shift towards more Agile collaboration. We needed to be able to ensure that we are meeting the demands of increased responsiveness, understanding services and values chains and how they fit into delivering and co-creating value out to the business consumer. Providing consistent terms and definitions. Let's try and tackle this culture or this cultural and technical debt situation that we've got ourselves into, and to provide that cultural change guidance that's needed to really achieve the benefits of becoming more agile and more responsive to the business. Okay. So I just want to step back here and talk a little bit about Agile, Lean, and DevOps and any other IT best practices that are popular out there today. It really is, I believe we have passed that tipping point and we're at a true convergence between these best practice methods. None were ever intended to be mutually exclusive, and they are all extremely complementary to each other. What the best guidance for IT organizations or organizations that do adopt these best practices is always to adapt and adopt what makes sense for you. Now, by doing that, always cautionary that you need to understand and have an understanding of the risk that's associated with not adopting a full complementary aspects of the guidance, whether it be DevOps or ITIL or Scrum. However, it's always about adopting what makes sense for you at the time and levels of maturity that your particular organization is at. Many of the common ones out there, so Lean IT, Agile, and there's many flavors of Agile. At the base of Agile is the Agile Manifesto. You can Google that. There's all kinds. It's very open information. But the most popular adoption of Agile we've seen is Agile Scrum, or the SAFe, the Scaled Agile framework. For enterprises, the adoption from an enterprise perspective of Agile. And DevOps, as I noted before, DevOps really found its roots in Lean, Agile, and ITIL. So these are some of the big ticket ones that are out there. We also have COBIT for governance, for IT governance. There's also more recognition around SIAM. So this is your integration, supplier integration best practice, because more and more there's strategic sourcing decisions being made and partnerships in place, and it's becoming more and more complex to manage. So that might be something, if anybody on the call is thinking, okay, that's my suppliers, I might want to check that out. So I think what's most critical to understand and take away here is that none were ever intended to be mutually exclusive. They are all complementary to each other, and indeed, it's kind of concerning to see that we even have, in some places, best practice silos being created. Let's knock those silos down, guys. And what is important here is that individuals within IT have a high-level understanding of each of these best practices to understand how they fit together, how best they enable your particular organization at your particular level of maturity. And within this scope of ITIL 4, understanding the core concepts, the systems approach, and the synergies with the popular best practices that are out there. One of the biggest challenges from CIOs today, in what keeps them awake at night, is trying to find skilled IT individuals who are not I-shaped. If you look at the letter I, that implies a single level of specialized knowledge, a deep dive into the technology areas often. What they want is a T-shaped individual. So they want an individual who has that deep dive expertise, however, put the cross on the top of the T, because they also want the IT professionals to have the generalist understanding of these best practices and other areas. So that's really where the profession of IT is moving towards, and where the market demand is now. So it is important to have a bit of understanding of each of these elements, or each of these best practices. So let's move into some of the very high-level elements of ITIL 4. And obviously there's a lot more detail behind this. At this point in time, ITIL 4 Foundation is available in the market, and the initial book, which is the ITIL 4 Foundation book, it was available as of February 18th. Now, I didn't see it at Amazon yet. I saw it at areas like TSO, the stationery office. If you search online, though, you can either purchase a soft copy of the core book now that's been released, and or a hard copy. So that is available out there. Obviously, you can read more information there, and the actual foundation courses were set to to start delivery as of February 11th for accredited organizations, and the foundation exam will be available, the very first exam will be available to write as of February 28th. So it is available now, but you guys are on the leading edge of understanding this at this point in time. First off, I want to talk about this concept of systems thinking and the service value system. So this is the core aspect of the new ITIL 4. It's recognizing that service management needs to work as a system to function properly. And this was first introduced from a lifecycle perspective, but you can see that this has expanded from the perspective from ITIL 4. Who I call the grandfather of system thinking is Peter Senge. He talks about living in webs of interdependence and realizing that in order for us to become more agile and responsive to the constant change and the constant demand from business, that we need to understand all of the different elements and interplay of the different elements needed to create and manage our services and products. So this service value system has come together to describe how these activities and higher level elements work together to deliver value. And you see on the left-hand side of the graphic, that is where opportunity and demand is created and generated. So that could be from the consumers of the service feeding back into the value stream here or the value system, and or from the business. And what we leverage are different concepts here. So guiding principles, and we'll take a look at those. So the guiding principles should guide our decisions within this framework of taking that opportunity and developing services and products that actually deliver value to the client. You see value as the output here of the value system on the right-hand side. We've also got governance. So governance is still extremely valid, whether it be IT service management governance and governance practices from within our practices, or if it's a higher level, how IT governance fits in with corporate governance. I don't like separating IT governance from corporate governance because at the end of the day, it's all just governance. So where IT fits into that governance, so governance drives decisions. We also have continual improvement, which has always been a core competency expectation of ITIL and is still there, very prevalent in ITIL 4, but you notice the word service is gone. It's not CSI anymore. It's just continual improvement. And we also have our practices, so those 34 practice areas that help us to enable the ability to deliver value. And in the center core, you see this concept of service value chain. And we'll take a closer look at that in the next slide, because this is where our life cycle of version 3 is truly reflected in the overall value system. So I would say that this is the 10,000-foot view of how everything fits together. And then we move down a level to the 1,000-foot view, or actually even the 100-foot view and the 10-foot view, because what will drive our day-to-day activities is more so this service value chain. The value system is more to be understood at the corporate level and more strategic level, whereas the service value chain, is a central part of the service value system, and it's an operating model that describes the activities required to respond to demand and deliver value. So you see, again, that demand and value, and the arrows are showing that the more you deliver value, the more you increase demand. So it's an ongoing cycle there. But in the core here are key activities that do not change. That they are the activities of engage. So how do we engage with the organization? How do we plan for our new services? How do we improve our products and services? So products and services as a box here are just recognized as the outcome that deliver value. But our key activities are engage, plan, improve, and then you've got these activities in the middle: design and transition, obtain and build, deliver and support. So for anybody familiar with version 3, I'm thinking that you're seeing some parallels here to our life cycle. Now the idea, and this is some lean methodology, the idea is that every organization will have multiple value streams. For example, a hotel may have a value stream that they define as taking or checking in a VIP loyalty customer. There may be a value stream for a car rental company where you've got a repeat rental user. So how do we check them in? How do we get a quick return for their car? In IT, you could think of a value stream like resolve an incident. Okay, so let's use resolve an incident as one value stream example. As you resolve an incident, you will, quote, light up or engage certain activities within the service value chain. For example, engage would light up because someone would report that incident or I'm broken, fix me to the service desk, or it could be automatically detected with event management. Deliver and support would light up because that would start those activities around your traditional incident resolution. And perhaps even improve may light up because that could link into, once the incident's resolved, going to problem management. So this is truly the application of lean method in version 4, and I'm hoping some people are getting excited when they see this, of how this is converging. So our life cycle of version 3 is here. It's just labeled a bit differently, and the concept has taken us more into a lean methodology world. And different parts will be engaged or light up based on the value stream from the business. A little bit different concept. So for now, that's good enough. A lot more behind that, and I do encourage you to read, take the training, and dive into this into a little bit more detail. The other side is the 4 dimensions model. So this is ensuring that we cover all of these 4 dimensions, these 4 areas: organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and there's the value streams and processes or practices. So if you remember from version 3, that was 4 P's of design. They've been expanded to say every dimension you must consider when you're designing, delivering, supporting, improving your IT services. So a little bit of improvement on the 4 P's of design, now called the 4 dimensions. Okay. Guiding principles. These are also exciting. These came from version 3 from the practitioner publication and level, and they are the core of the foundation of version 4. So I just look at this and I see agile mindset throughout here. So I'm seeing focus on value, start where you are, don't reinvent the wheel, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Progress iteratively with feedback. Ooh, I'm hearing DevOps there. I'm hearing lean. I'm hearing shift right. I'm hearing all of those wonderful buzzwords. Collaborate and promote visibility. Kanban boards. Leverage your collaboration tools. Again, agile. Think and work holistically. Keep it simple. Oh, that's the Agile Manifesto. Keep it practical. And optimize and automate. A lot of DevOps in there as well. So this now, the guiding principles now become the core element of ITIL 4 going forward. Here are the management practices, the 34 practices. I think just what's important to take away is that it's been structured now as general management practices, service management practices, and technical management practices. The name has changed from processes to practices. And when you do take your foundation course, just like in version 3, not all of these are covered. So breathe a sigh of relief, but they will be covered in the intermediate courses in more detail moving forward. So that's a bit of a glimpse. There's also, just reiterating here, some of the high-level differences is in general. The takeaway is that version 3, 2011 is just as relevant as ever, and version 4 just builds upon that context. From the processes, we've moved to practices and have increased the number of practices. We've gone from life cycle focus now to service value system enabled by the service value chain and the other elements. We've got the guiding principles, which are now core, and we shifted those 4 P's of designs into a more holistic 4 dimensions of service management. So that's a bit of detail on the key components of ITIL and what's changed. Now I'm just going to close with talking about education. And first off, who needs education? Everybody. Back to that concept of the T-shaped individual, really having that as an IT professional, having a good understanding of all the best practices out there, how they work together, and not only IT, but anybody using or affected by IT. And this goes for the business too, because the business needs to become more savvy and aware of how IT is strategic and should truly be a partner moving forward. Version 3, so just a note on the current version 3 certification scheme. It is still in place and will remain in place until at least June 2020. All of your V3 certification scheme and credit system is still relevant, and because only the foundation level is available in ITIL 4 right now, you are still encouraged, if you want to continue your certification path through to ITIL Expert, you are encouraged to continue that in the existing ITIL 3 framework. Everything in ITIL 3 is still extremely relevant, and it is then just expanded upon in ITIL 4. And Axelos will give quite a bit of time for the market to adjust here. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into detail explaining this, but please do reach out to Starweaver training provider, just to, if you've got any detailed questions, we'll make sure that you have questions, that this gets answered for you. Now, if version 4 qualification scheme. Where we're at right now is this foundation level, and there is a book associated and published at the foundation level. From here, you can either go and become a managing professional designation, which is the matching designation of ITIL Expert from version 3, or you can follow this new designation learning, which is strategic leader. And each of these areas in what I'll call the intermediate level, so ITIL specialist, create, deliver support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, and direct, plan, and improve, they will each be individual certificate or publications and individual certifications. They will not be available until second half 2019, and I'll have a list of that on the next slide for you. On the other side, we have, so you see that there is one shared certification between the managing professional designation and the new strategic leader designation. And then we've got the digital strategy, which is a new one on the strategic leader side. So as noted again, previous ITIL Foundation version or ITIL 4 is available and in the market today. The first exams will be available February 28th. And we are waiting from Axelos to get proper dates for the intermediate level. That's why it's important, if you've started on your ITIL journey in version 3, to continue there, especially if your goal is to go to ITIL Expert. ITIL Master is something that is in the works. There is an ITIL Master designation in version 3, and it will probably be one of the last ones that is announced. What's required in version 4. What we do know today is that you will have to have both designations, managing professional and strategic leader, from ITIL 4 to work through the ITIL Master level in ITIL 4. There is one other course I want to bring your attention to, which is the Managing Professional Transition course. So this transition course will also be available Q2 2019. And it's intended for individuals who have their ITIL expert level in version 3 to take this transition course to be recognized as a managing professional designation in version 4. So that is the main transition level and the official transition level from Axelos for your certification if you are ITIL expert. Now, there's a lot here, I know, guys. What we've tried to do is break this down from a persona perspective. So very simply, if you're just starting your ITIL journey, you have no immediate plans to go to expert, then take the new ITIL 4 foundation course. Now, officially, there is no bridging or transition course from Axelos between 3 and 4 because there is quite a bit of new content in version 4, as some of you who have that background are getting a flavor of here. However, so let's say you have your ITIL V3 foundation. I don't want to go through to ITIL expert, but I do want to learn more about the basics of ITIL 4. It's recommended take the new ITIL 4 foundation course, or training providers are offering a quote bridge type course where if you do have your V3 certification, they will run typically a one-day course, and all they do is talk about the differences. So make sure you're up to speed on your version 3 concepts. And at the end of that course, you can then take some study time and then write your exam for V4 or ITIL 4 Foundation. So it's not an official course, but training providers are offering this. It will be time limited in the market if people are interested. Okay. I have a few intermediate or practitioner credits from the ITIL V3 scheme, and I want to continue through to ITIL expert or ITIL managing professional in ITIL 4. Continue to get your 17 credits. You may want to delay taking your capstone course, which is called Managing Across the Lifecycle in version 3, because then when the version 4 managing transition module is available, then you can take that course to fast track yourself into version 4. Okay. A couple other scenarios. I'm an ITIL V3 expert. I want to match this designation in version 4. Wait until the managing professional transition module comes out in second half of 2019. You can read through the book if this is your professional desire at expert level. It typically is, and or take the V3 or the V4, the ITIL 4 foundation course. For more information. And then finally, I'm an ITIL master. What do I do? The best thing is just to wait right now, and that will become clear. You see a TBD there, but we'll continue to keep the market updated. So with that in mind, you'll see different flavors of courses available. Obviously, the full foundation certificate course is the main course for ITIL 4. Foundation Bridge, although it's not official, there are bridge type courses out there, but you must, the prereq is your version 3 foundation, and be pretty good at that. Have it very aware in your mind so you're successful in your version 4 exam. There are some awareness overview courses, typically half-day to a day sessions that are non-certificate that can also be shared with the organizations. And with that, we will formally pass over for questions or comments. Paul, I believe you sent a question already.
No, I haven't sent anything in yet.
Okay.
But we'll just wait for a little while. No questions have come in. But I actually have a question which is related to kind of a silly way of looking at it. But as they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yep.
So that's the joke, but no offense to anyone who's reverent to elephants, of course. But how do you eat the elephant of ITIL and in an organization that is, multi-divisional, the usual large organization? Is there any? Obviously, it's a big question, but maybe there's a focused way to approach it.
Yeah, when an organization is looking at adopting ITIL and understanding the benefits that it can deliver within that particular organization, a lot of times what we recommend is to start with an assessment of the current maturity levels from the practice or process perspective. There's a lot of good benchmark data to start with. Also, look at your own organization, understand your pain points, link up with the business, understand the direction that they want to move in, and ensure that your adoption of this best practice is focused on delivering that value to the business. As always, start slow, show some quick wins, show true value to the business. So get at the table with the business, understand what clients need, what the customers need, what the end users or end consumers need. Lots of different tools and approaches to start there. Reach out to people like Starweaver to help start your path with different aspects. And what we tend to see is most organizations are still struggling to get their incidents and problems and changes and their configuration management systems, especially with DevOps, integrated with other CI systems or CD systems, that kind of thing. And service level management, service catalog, these tend to be the areas where people are still struggling and trying to get under control. So start where it matters, understand where you are, where you want to be, put a plan to get there, and make sure that you're delivering value in a quick win perspective directly to the business. Hope that answers your question,
by the way,
Paul?
I didn't think that question was possible to be answered, but I think you put it in very clearly. I don't know if I would have ever been able to answer that. I've been wandering in the wilderness for a long time. So, no, it's great. It's an interesting point of view. And obviously, I think, to me, what I heard, among other things, was the quick win. Proving that you've got a result, proving that this is meaningful, workable, and there's a result. We are Starweaver. Education you can bank on. For more information, contact us.